day.
Yeah, and I'm happy you got it right.
Thank you. The practicing. Karibu sana.
Asante.
You're very warm this morning. Out there, it's
Yeah, it's a bit chilly.
It's a bit chilly today. One Dennis Aseto is suffering, but we're glad that you're here to warm up the seat because that means he's warm.
Yeah.
He's been to warmer climes and he's come back with a proverb. He'd tell you where that's from, and of course, we'd love to hear your interpretation of it.
So we are in the home of Kalahari Desert. We are in
Namibia.
No, we are in Botswana.
Botswana.
Yes, and it's also an interesting country because they continue to embrace the chieftaincy system, where the traditional leadership still plays an important role in governance and maintaining of the culture in the country. But then again, you look at the economy, and they are one of the largest producers of diamond through mining, which is boosting the economy to be what it is today. Also, it is one area that you want to see Kenya embrace. We talk about democracy, and it is considered to be Africa's success story for its political stability since independence in 1966. Let's go to the proverb, shall we? You cannot chase two antelopes at once. You cannot chase two antelopes at once. How would you interpret that?
Yeah, it speaks for itself. It calls for focus and decisiveness in the actions we take. We cannot be indecisive in whatever we do. And if you are indecisive, you are likely to end up nowhere, because if you try chasing two antelopes at the same time, I don't know even how you begin, because they definitely run in different directions. So the question is that you should be focused in whatever you do. And that's how I understand it.
Yeah, Waswahili wangesema mpanda farasi wawili, upasuka msamba. Ndu.
Yeah, I agree. So, Senator, thank you for joining us this morning. Necessary for us to have. You know, it's interesting because folks said, you know what, in all of these reporting that we are seeing, all the numbers that we're seeing flying at us, and with what we know is already an 11 point trillion shilling debt, we need to have Senator Omtatah in the room to then be able to shed some light on these things and for us to keep this conversation here. That it is too big a conversation for us to have on the back burner, that we must revisit it as much as possible. So there is the public demand and at the same time, there's also the public demand for information about what is really happening. So thank you for doing that today. The Auditor General has been very busy. The reporting that she has been sharing in terms of what has been happening with government spend, with public spend, is quite worrying when we look at the numbers that she's talking about in terms of loss of public funds through, as a result of behaviors of impunity, and if we're just going to be very honest this morning, outright thievery, theft of public funds. So you can talk about public debt, and you can also talk about public theft and corruption.
Yeah.
The most recent one, which Dennis will share in just a minute, is how we are talking about these ghosts, literally and otherwise, seem to not be able to disappear, except when they disappear with money.
Yeah.
And in different counties, interestingly enough, one of them is your county, where millions of shillings disappearing, and they disappear with ghosts.
Mine is billions, because I've done an
Billions. You've done
Yeah.
and interesting because you've done an audit and you've asked some very tough questions.
Yeah.
And we are asking the questions this morning in terms of, so what happens when we know where that the money has gone? If we dig just a little bit deep, we know who the money has gone to, but it still remains just that. Money disappeared. Nobody brought to book.
Yeah. I think the question of theft from the public has reached has become an existential threat to the survival of the republic, because right now you look at it and you see that right from the counties, as you have said, up to the national level, nobody is being held accountable for the loss of money. You find, and then you look at wherever they try to be held accountable, there's lots of money on the expenditure side. There's very little accountability on the loss of money on the revenue side. Like if you look at anti-corruption, and I've asked them before, have you ever audited the budget for corruption? You find anti-corruption has never done anything like that. They're just engaged in running around after small things. The real theft is not done. You remember when the Eurobond thing happened in 2015 or thereabouts, the ACC promised to do an audit and give us a report. To date, they have not done an audit, and the scam has risen from the 2 billion shillings then to now 2 billion USD dollars then to now $7 billion, and still no report from the ACC. So you find that personally I've reached a place where I'm saying that we need to get to be faithful to the Constitution, restrain the EACC to dealing with matters of ethics, as the Constitution requires them to, and get rid of these acts of parliament that give them the power to engage in crime, and put fighting crime squarely back to the police, so that we can now push the police with their functions. You find that the CID have got a whole department on economic crimes, starved of funds, and the money is given to EACC, which is, for all practical purposes, it's a civilian organization. So when you are headed by a retired bishop and by some accountant or something like that, how do you expect to be a crime-busting organization? They are not wired for that.
Intentionally?
Intentional, of course. Even the word anti-corruption is to mischaracterize theft by privileged people. Otherwise, you just be theft by servant, and let the OCS deal with it, and the constable on the beat. But we are shielding people from the police by creating this thing called the EACC. And in the Constitution, I think it's Article 247, if you look at it, you find that Parliament is given power to create special police forces, but they must be under the command of the Inspector General. So if we want the EACC to create, we wanted the EACC to play a role like that, I don't know how we would do it, because the EACC is opposed by Chapter 15 Commission. The EACC's mandate is defined in the Constitution to be one to enforce Chapter 6, which is a code of conduct, not a crime, not a penal code. And under Article 247, Parliament should establish, if we need a special police force to deal with the theft of public assets, then Parliament should establish a special force and put under the IG so that we can know that it's a crime-fighting entity. The EACC is a complete scam. Like you've mentioned, Busia. If you look at the EACC office in Bungoma, even the fellows in Busia, the criminals in Busia will tell you, go, rush to the EACC.
Because what?
They are their buddies. Even in the last, the former boss who was there at the Bungoma. At his best man at the wedding was one of the fellows who suspect of corruption in Busia. So how are you going to deal with this? So we have a lot of confusion. And if you go to Busia, the thefts that have happened is that you go to the homes of these people that have put up palaces, so you look at their salaries and look at the palaces they have built in their homes, you cannot compare. A lot of primitive accumulation of property in Busia, in Kisumu, in Nairobi, and these properties are known. The salaries are known.
Sorry, Senator, who is acquiring these properties? Obviously illegal, like you're saying. And if they're known, why is nothing being done about it?
The other day we had some raids in Busia, a bit of them. I don't know how it's going to pan out. We hope it will go the whole hog and people get prosecuted. But that's just a microcosm. If you look at the country as a whole, you'll find like the issues the Auditor General raises, be they theft through law firms, which is one of the major areas that government loses money, whereby lawyers collude with the civil servants, private lawyers collude with civil servants, and they loot a lot of money. And again, in Busia, I'll just say this, a taxing officer one time called me and said, look, you have a bill here of so much, which I was going to tax for very little money, but before I could tax, they have come in with what we call a consent at half the amount, which is millions of shillings. When I was going to tax this thing, not more than 100,000, the county is going to end up paying about 20-30 million shillings. because of that collusion. So one of the major areas of theft from government has been law firms colluding with the officials and stealing. The report of the Auditor General, you will find there's something that is not very clear on those reports, which is clear, but people have chosen not to accept it, because you will find that these reports are usually done under Article 229 of the Constitution, and are required to tell us whether public money has been used lawfully and effectively. Now, one of the problems with the reports of the Auditor General, they don't go up to that stage. They don't tell us whether the money has been used lawfully and effectively. They even say that we are unable to determine whether the money was used lawfully or effectively, because we're not able to access this document or the other document or this other document. And yet you find that in the Auditor General's Act, they have the power to punish when they find no documents at the point of audit. They never seem to invoke that power. So the reports themselves are woolly, and so they may be difficult to act on. Then number two, Parliament or the County Assembly is required to look at the reports within 3 months and act on them. Now, some people have gone to court to argue, and some courts have accepted that that means that the Auditor General's report is not complete, and therefore you cannot use an Auditor General's report to prosecute because Parliament has not acted on this. And you find like the National Assembly, I think, is about 4 years behind, 3-4 years behind in terms of the reports it has validated. So my own reading of Article 229 is that the Auditor General's report, if it is to tell us if money has been used effectively and lawfully, is conclusive and cannot be reopened, maybe unless the accused party goes to court and contests the report. So if we were to get to an agreement that the Auditor General's report is a final document and that it's actionable in court, then it would be very easy for civic, publicly spirited individuals to pick up an issue in the Auditor General's report and prosecute it. But you find that there has been some element of saying that the report is not conclusive until the Assembly, the National Assembly, and the County Assembly or Parliament has acted on them. And that has been one reason why action on the reports has not been effective. When I was in the Public Accounts Committee, before I moved to the other devolution, that was in the first half of the Parliament, of the tenure of the current Senate. By the time I was leaving, there were 148 reports sent to the EACC for action
from the
committee looking at the Auditor General's report. They say recommend action. So they have recommended to the EACC to take action. And for the 2 years I was there, none of the 148 had been acted on.
Wow.
So maybe lack of capacity. I don't know, from the EACC, I don't know. That's another problem. They have, genuinely, they don't have the capacity to do what the police would have done, because the police is almost everywhere in this country. They've got the capacity. But that's it. That should tell us why you find that the report of the Auditor General tend just to pass for nothing.
But is it not then exposing a bigger problem? Because from the Auditor General, and in this case, we look at how taxpayers that are losing billions in counties and millions in payroll fraud. And an example is we look at Bomet, Busia, and it cuts across. There's a common theme across all counties. It's almost like they're reading from the same script, how we're going then to defraud the county coffers. For example, the special audit for Bomet identified 141 employees with inconsistent dates of birth. Now, interviews with 94 of the employees and verification of the identification documents established that the dates captured in the system were different from those in the employee's birth certificate. Now, this cuts across all counties, including Busia County. Now, in this particular case, out of 93 employees from the county executive who are told to present themselves for physical verification, 10 employees did not appear for the exercise. And despite attempts to reach them, the 10 employees collectively received a gross salary of 19.22 million. In Busia, 21 employees earned a gross salary of 71 million. Now, this is as far as the Auditor General has gone with what they've done physically verifying these things. Now, when you say this report then is not really complete, so we have what comes now to Parliament. Now, in the committee, like you said, you pushed 146 or 48, 148 to ESCC to act on those reports. ESCC does not do anything. For another 2 years, nothing was done. Is there a problem in terms of how then these reports are done and handed over to another different institution? There is no follow-up structure, no timelines to act on these reports. They just simply remain as reports. Because then from Parliament, once you forward these reports to ESCC, who follows up? Are there timelines under which they need to act on those reports? What happens?
There are several issues that are coming, and if you look at what is being raised, like if you saw my audit on Busia, it established that 5.2 billion shillings was stolen in the financial year 2022-2023. In one financial year, 5.2 billion shillings
Gone.
out of a budget of 8.6 billion.
5 billion is gone.
That's not even theft. That's looting. And if you go to the ground in Busia, you'll find that nothing is happening since the new governor came in. But if you look at it, and then the problem is that when you got that report of the Auditor General, he had virtually cleared Busia. Highlighting so small issues like those are there, but the really hard issues are not there. And if you look at my audit report, I faulted the Auditor General, one, for doing a shoddy job in terms of what documents they looked at. If you look at the law, it requires these documents to be examined, but you find the Auditor General jumps certain documents, like accounts from the individual office holders, then accounting officers, those are the chief officers. The accounts from them should be able to be brought to the Auditor General. And also then the consolidated account of the CAC finance should be brought to the Auditor General. You find that the Auditor General only receives documents from the CAC finance. That's what he looks at, the consolidated documents. Does not look at the individual accounts of the various departments that come in. You'll find that the movements of money that are done there are very heavy, especially when you look at the IFMIS reports. You find that the Auditor General hardly, at least after I raised these issues and I got very hard on the Auditor General for Busia, in the last audit I've seen some mention of IFMIS issues, but the real theft is done in the IFMIS. If you look at the IFMIS reports, with a case like when I was looking at the Busia issue, in the IFMIS report, you have got, we had, for example, tea and snacks. I think there was a provision for 9 million for tea and snacks in the governor's office. That item was paid 5 times, and 27 million shillings was paid out.
Just for 1 year?
For 1 year. So it's 27 million shillings for tea and snacks.
For only the governor's office?
Yes.
Not county?
No, the county, the governor's office. So you come to about, you are dealing with about 2-point-something million per month.
2-point-something million a month, and is it actually tea and snacks, or does it cover hospitality?
Just tea and snacks. Just the heading.
Now,
the vote head.
What a further investigation would do was to ask if that money was actually going towards tea and snacks, and whether these were for delegations who were visiting the county office, or whether this money actually went to do something else or went into somebody else's pocket. Is there a way to find out?
Yes, you can find out by looking at the IFMIS cash book. You'll know who was paid. But to me, the issue is that why was the vote split? The budget is 9 million. Why are we paying 27? Why are you splitting this? Why are you paying it 5 times? The same item. And beyond that, you'll find also the other area where a lot of theft is done is through supplementary. The government, if you look at Article 223, it allows for supplementary budgets. But you only allows one supplementary budget. You'll find supplementary 1, supplementary 2, supplementary 3. You wonder what this is all about. And at the end of the day, what the supplementary budgets do is that the initial budget is done through public participation and all that process. Now, through supplementation, the supplementaries don't go for public participation. So at the supplementary stage is when money is moved around. And that money then is appropriated, is usually taken from development into recurrent, and then it is taken out. It is stolen. So through supplementation, there's been that big problem. And it's time that we looked at supplementary budgets, how they should be done, because they are only allowed in situations whereby an issue is unforeseen or unavoidable. Unforeseen and unavoidable or unforeseen. Emergencies that were not contemplated at all. But ordinary emergencies, there are usually contingency fund. There's a contingency fund out of which money should be taken. Another thing is that you should not be able to supplement beyond 10%
of the total budget.
Now, the last audit I did the Busia budget was supplemented the tune of 62%.
Okay,
62%.
so if we put that in, so if I have a budget of 100 million shillings,
Yes.
that a supplementary budget should not come beyond 10 million shillings. But what we've seen is that 62 million shillings has been used for emergencies, because emergencies come from the supplementary budget. So 62 million shillings has been used for emergencies. Should we not also then be able to see on paper that there was an emergency of this nature? I'm trying to think what happened. There was a lightning strike in Kwale County. This actually happened, and the roofs of buildings were blown off. And the county governor actually had to go and say, you know what, we're going to help our people. Such a thing would come from a supplementary budget, would it not? But it should not go towards 62 million shillings over 100 million shilling budget, for example.
It should not go beyond, and if it's big, then it should go into the next budget cycle.
Right. Okay.
Because our budgets are annual.
Yes.
They are cycles. And the area that is now happening in stealing in this country is the liquidation of state corporations. Right now, we have seen Kenya Pipeline Corporation, highly profitable government entity, is on the chopping board. The justification that they want to balance the budget.
How do they do that? Because we're looking at an entity essentially that was in surplus for the last decade.
Yes. Now they want to steal it. They want to be earning the surplus, not the exchequer. So how are they going about it? If you look at the budget that we have, our budget can only be, I think it's about 4.7 trillion. The government can only finance, from what I've shown, they can only finance 2.4 of the budget. 2.3, they want to borrow. Now, why would you who up with a budget whom you cannot finance? You can only finance halfway. Now they create this loophole as a justification for them going to liquidate state assets. Now they are saying they want to sell KPC to balance the budget. What will they sell tomorrow? And now look at KPC, the strategic nature of energy being given to the private sector. So from where we see it is that there is a design, there is basically a political culture of stealing from the public, creating fires and trying to put them out. So a fire like having a deficit in the budget, just balance that budget and let this asset be. Why create a budget you cannot finance? That's the whole question.
Senator, when you talk about corruption as we see it in this country today, you look at bodies then that do oversight. One would say Parliament, the MCAs, and the report file. The Auditor General has given the report that has gone to Parliament, and you've gone through these documents and given recommendations. Now here we talk about the next body that picks up this matter. ODPP seems to be silent on this matter. And last week when we had the director, the chairperson, EACC, said the law in this country is designed not to fight corruption. And one would ask, if that's the case, then why are we not seeing changes into the law to make it easier to fight corruption in the country? Or is that just another talk to say corruption in the country to fight is a difficult thing?
First of all, you have to get rid of the word corruption. You have to call it theft by servant. because the public servants are stealing from us. Once you use the word corruption, you begin off on a wrong trajectory. So if it is theft, give that work back to the police. Let the police deal with the thieves. Let the EACC deal with its constitutional mandate of upholding the code of conduct in Article 6. People are respectful, people are behaving well in private and public, people are reporting on work at good time, they don't have whatever, they don't have foreign accounts and stuff like that, they're not earning 2 salaries. They should just be like meat inspectors, where you find somebody selling bad meat, you call the police on them, or the immigration. You call the police on them. Let the police be allowed to fight crime. Let us be able to hold the Inspector General accountable if crime is run away. EACC, you go there, they come up with a lot of excuses. They tell you they have got very small, they are understaffed, which is true. Look at Busia being handled from Bungoma. What time do they have to look at Bungoma? When will they look at Busia? Yeah, and these are only a handful of people. So they don't have the capacity. 2, they even don't have the training. They have to go back to the police to get inspectors and investigators and stuff.
When you say let the police, Senator, I'm a bit conflicted, because who should let the police? This is a headline on Standard today about shielding Lagat. This is a totally different kind of story, but the structure of the character of the idea remains the same. Whereby there is, a gentleman who was killed, as you know, in police custody, and that if anybody is linked to him, it seems as though that individual is being protected. Yes. So here we are, and we are seeing. It's not a fairy tale. It is the reality. The Auditor General doesn't make up these numbers. You don't make up these numbers when you go to Busia County and actually look at the books. They've been cooked. Money has been stolen. So it should be almost reactionary. It should be the next thing that you do. When public funds have been stolen, or when those funds have been used for something outside of what a budget demands, that the next thing is that there should be some prosecutorial behavior. It doesn't happen. So when we say let the police, who's to let the police? How is this supposed to happen?
Yes.
If we have a protectionist behavior.
Yes, already you are saying that there's pressure to get Lagat out. The public is saying, okay, this a guy, DPP, whatever what you are doing is wrong, we are dealing with you. I would like the same thing to happen with corruption. Let us deal with the OCS, let us deal with these officers, instead of dealing with a body that when you go to it, you'll begin flailing its hand, saying it has got no capacity. Now, the question of Lagat is a question of structural corruption or the rot in the system. But you see, the issue is that the Kenyan citizenship are not letting it go. They are standing up and saying, this must happen. People have gone to court to demand that certain things happen as regards Mr. Lagat. And I think at the end of the day, the public is going to win against him. So I would like similar way whereby people can easily focus and say, okay, this matter was taken to the police on such and such a day, nothing was done. Other than going to the EACC, then the EACC comes up and says they don't have this. Now on top of that, they want to have prosecutorial powers, then you say what exactly is going on. So for me, from where I sit, I think that unless we begin punishing corruption, or we begin punishing the theft of public funds, it will remain a very, very attractive area, and many people will engage in it, and knowing that they'll get away scot-free, so there'll be no deterrence. But if we punish this corruption and we recover the assets, like I was telling somebody, in Busia right now, where the EACC has moved against some county officials, we want to see their assets recovered, captured, because these were people who have actually paupers the other day when they got into government. Right now, they are high-flying millionaires in 2 years, and the county itself is malnourished. Nothing is going on. It's dying. So these people should be taken to task and assets recovered, and they be prosecuted and punished for whatever they have done. So even if the jail sentences, they should serve jail sentences as a deterrence. If that is done, then the next crop of public officials will say, hey, so and so did this and he ended up in jail and he lost the piece of land, his ancestral land where he had built a palatial house. let us be careful about it.
Senator, I want to pick your mind on the highest office in the land with regard to political goodwill in fighting corruption. And why do I say that? Recently, we signed the conflict of interest bill, which is now an act of Parliament. And you talk about that, and you go to NTSA and look at the web that involves the president and the family, and you as well go back and look at Expressway and how the former president's family as well is then entangled into that. And you remember the statement that was made again by former President Uhuru Kenyatta, tunapoteza bilioni mbili kila siku. And you listen to that, and it is a defeating statement from the highest office in the land. So if that is what is being said from up there, how does it look on the face in the fight against corruption from the highest office in the country? Does it help the case?
No, it doesn't. And in fact, one of the functions of the president is annually to report to Parliament on how corruption is being fought. So at the end of the day, he's one of the chief corruption fighters, or so to be. But I think the current president does not seem to have the guts, either the guts or the will or the capacity to fight this vice of stealing from the public. Because as if you look at him, he himself has got a lot of public assets in his hands, beginning with this hotel across the place, which is sitting on public land, that he's trying to negotiate out of things. You saw he's being mentioned in Angata Baragoi case. He's being mentioned in Miwani Sugar Land through proxies, Indian proxies. So he himself seems not to be able to cut the tree, the branch upon which he stands, because he seems to have come through that channel. So he may not be able to fight it. And as you say, and as I said earlier, many very successful people in this country in terms of economic empowerment have either been politicians or top civil servants. Because the state was there for looting right from the days of Jomo Kenyatta. So we need to deal with that. We need to stop that. We need to punish those who stole. We need to recover every coin that was stolen. If it was land, we need to recover every acre and restore it to its place. Most of these lands were taken from ADC. You know what ADC was meant for? They were taken from Kari and the likes, research institutions. We need to recover all these lands. Lands were taken from the prisons. Lands were taken from the military. Lands were taken from all manner of situations. So we need to take that land back. You saw the other day in Taveta. If you look at Taveta after Mamangina and Criticos surrendered some land, that land seems to have ended up with the president. It's no longer with the peasants who are supposed to gain it.
Seems to have ended up. What does that mean?
Well, from all the old practical purposes, there's a chunk of that land has not gone to the squatters who are targeted, and it has ended up in the hands of the president. So we find it very difficult to say that President William Ruto can fight corruption or the theft of public assets. He cannot, because he has been a major participant in this asset. You remember even the maize scandal when he was the Minister for Agriculture? There was that scandal, the maize was stolen and taken out. He has personally been fined in a court of law for stealing land. So he's a man who does not have the moral capacity, even the intellectual capacity, let me say, to be able to take on this monster of theft of public resources.
So when we look at the numbers, obviously because they're staggering across board, aside from what the Auditor General has been able to bring out, if we can even put that aside for a minute, when you look at these numbers, there is obviously a clear appetite for corruption and impunity leading towards corruption. It's clear that that's there. And we can look at them and we are aghast and we say, what on earth is happening here? In the same boundary where the needs are so huge, whereby we talk about road infrastructure that's required. We talk about the people who farm and are not able to take their product to market. We talk about infrastructure that's needed for government deals that have been signed. For example, that which has been signed with the UAE to provide meat products to the UAE under this G2G agreement that is going to essentially help the local farmer. The infrastructure for that to happen doesn't exist. Why? Because funds are required. Okay, let's go to health. When we talk about the fact that civil servants for whom an amount is deducted from their salary should then actually go to hospital and then access medical care are being asked to remove some more money. Why? The fund doesn't have enough cash. We're going back to school in 2 weeks. 7,000 shillings has not been paid in capitation. Still, we're waiting for that amount on capitation. Why? The Cabinet Secretary has told us very clearly that there are no funds. Everywhere you look, for where there is a need, there is a gaping hole in terms of what should fill it with funds that are required. But within the same boundaries, we're talking about billions of shillings that are being paid to people who don't exist, or land has been taken, or money has not been paid. How do we operate like that?
Well, from this thing needs to be looked at in a very, very careful manner, because if you look at the public finances right now, the last, as of 30th November, of every 100 shillings that KRA was collecting, 82 was going to pay debt, leaving government with 18 shillings out of 100, which is a very, very sad situation. Then you find that if you look at the statement of actual revenue and net expenditure issues, which the Treasury publishes every end month, you'll find that there's a lot of theft that's going on from the consolidated fund. There's a lot of leakage. Money is being siphoned out through very innocuous issues. For example, right now I'm having an issue in Parliament where I raised the question of in January, 19.7 billion shillings was irregularly withdrawn using the account for paying the salaries of people who are paid through the consolidated fund, like judges, commissioners of the constitutional commissions, and people like the Auditor General, like the Control of Budget. Now, from that account, the amount that was being paid every month was 301 million for that category of people. But in January, it was paid over and above by 19.7 billion shillings. So when I ask that question, and the minister comes back and says that, we were paying a guaranteed loan for Kenya Airways. Guaranteed loan for Kenya Airways. You look at Kenya Airways, it has turned back to profitability, doesn't need that guarantee. You go follow deeper, you find that the fund for paying those guarantees is not the salaries of judges and other people. You dig deeper, you find that even the money did not go to the banks that were allegedly gave the loan to Kenya Airways, but they went to a broker. So that really raises a red flag that this money was spirited out. So there's a lot of pilferage from the consolidated fund, because the controls over the consolidated fund for me are not there. And that's why we need to get the treasury away from politicians and put it squarely in the hands of an independent professional who can run it like you would run a bank and make sure that any withdrawals are done by the law. So if you don't do that, then we are in a situation whereby we are likely to get this country so broke that it will have to collapse.
We're still dealing with e-citizen issues.
Yeah.
How are accounts created outside the structures that are in place? Because money talks. There is no way 100 shillings will move from one account to another account without following the trail. How are people getting away with creation of these accounts where money is diverted and we are not told whose are the account holders for these accounts? How much, when were these accounts opened? Which bank and who are the signatories to access those funds? How are people getting away with this?
First of all, I must say that eCitizen is operated by some two gentlemen from Busia. They're the guys who came up with the whole thing.
They're from your county?
They're from my county. I know them.
They're letting me
I
down.
said, Busia has got some very brainy guys who can use their brains badly.
Yeah.
So, what happened that they were able to set up this thing. They did a demo to the government, and the IFC financed them to expand it as a project which could be given for running the government. And they were fully paid, and the government was given the capacity. But then now the operatives in the treasury, colluding with this young man, decided to keep them on board. In fact, I'm litigating against them in court. There's a petition.
Against this young gentleman?
Yes. I have a petition that has been in court for quite some long time. I think it's a 2018 petition. It was initially thrown to the commercial division. Then after about 2 years again, it was brought back to constitutional division, and I think we are beginning to hear it in August, in September. But the issue is that other than the theft of the money, the 50 shillings charged per transaction is a lot of money that is being taken from the public. There's no justification for it. You go further, you find that again the president's hands are here. After we were pushing this thing so hard, and even the treasury, even the affidavit from the treasury, there was a gentleman in the treasury who did a very strong affidavit and gave a blow-by-blow account of how that e-citizen account should not be operated by private individuals, whatever. The guy was eventually removed from the treasury. But after that...
For exposing that?
Yeah, for exposing that. After that, and this affidavit is on record, after that, when President Ruto came in, a new company was formed by these people of e-citizen.
Wait,
through which
those two young men from Busia, so we have webmasters,
yes,
we have PesaFlow.
They are behind all those things and you not trace them.
So these are the companies that are known.
Yes.
Those three companies.
And most of and if you look at the directorship, if you lift the veil, you find that there's two guys and their employees who are coming up with all manner of companies, except for the last one where the president's hand is in, when he then gave an order that all transactions of government should be taken to e-citizen.
And that was after this other company was formed by him? Is that
no, they formed this company and incorporated him. They formed a third company, which now receives the money. You know, you remember they closed down the, what do you call it? The payment, what do you call it? What's this thing called?
Which
pay
payment?
bill?
The pay bill. Yeah, the Safaricom pay bill. Initial pay bill that was gazetted was initially closed down. A new one was opened with a new company being recruited to do the work because the other issues had been exposed. But it is the same guys who created the new company and incorporated the president's interests. And the president helped them by ordering that all e-citizen, all government transactions should migrate to e-citizen. So the thing became huge. But right now the files cannot be found.
So how was he going to benefit? So the 50 shillings
the 50 shillings
that we were paying, so that 50 shillings is divided into these
it will be shared by these other people. But now beyond that is emerging that they're even stealing from even the money collected. And you see under the law, a private person cannot collect money for government unless it's unauthorized.
Yes.
So allow me to just double click on what you've just said, because what we see from the Auditor General's report is that there was an external account, and that account is not listed on Treasury books, because there should actually be a list of the accounts that receive or pay out money for anything that is a public entity, in this case, which e-citizen is. So why would there be a private account receiving and paying out money that has not been listed on the books?
Just a question of just disregard for the rule of law, disregard for the law, and that's why you are kind of ending up with the whole thing. This fraud, it's a fraud scheme to siphon money out of the public coffers. So this thing of e-citizen has no basis to be operated by a private individual. These people went and did a demo for the Treasury, how to do an online system, very bright young men. The Treasury looked at it. The International Finance Corporation paid them in full, 70 million shillings. And they handed over the system. They were to hand over the system to the government to operate. But for some reason, there was collusion with the Treasury mandarins, and the system never changed hands. So it remained with these private actors who keep on morphing and changing company names. But the individuals remain the same, the directorships are the same, and the fraud remains the same.
Senator, do we have documentation showing that at the end of the development of this system, it was supposed to be handed over to government? And if that's the case, and we have these documents, why is it difficult for government to just crack the whip? Because
the documents were brought to court in that affidavit by that guy from the Treasury, who said, we own this thing. And this is because when I went to court on the basis of challenging the 50 shillings that was being paid. I went to court to challenge the fact that an individual, a private entity, was collecting money. And then, in the affidavit that came out, I think it was an intentional thing. Somebody sneaks within it was a long affidavit. But we have got some good people. So within the affidavit, this person put in documentation showing that this system was paid for. This is how it began with these people. They did a demo here. We thought the system was good. IFC got interested. We interested in the IFC. It financed the thing. It paid so much. And the thing was supposed to be handed to us. But it never happened. The item was not handed over. Yeah.
So suppose, let's give an example of a passport application.
Yeah.
So currently we don't have the 34, but when we had the 34 page, the passport service was, I think, 7,500.
Yeah.
There is the access fee, which is the 50 shillings.
Yeah.
Kokando.
Yeah, Kokando.
There is another fee, I think it's a convenience fee. That was 50 shillings kando. So in total, you're paying 7,600. So out of 7,600, that's money you're paying to get that passport. And all these transactions are going through e-citizen.
Yes.
You're saying...
And the money is not going direct to government.
It's not.
It's going into a third
account. This third-party account that I'm telling you about, that goes to,
And then there's somebody who decides how much now is going to go to government.
Yes, that's what's happening.
And we don't know how much that is.
We don't know how much that is because it's not open. In fact, what needs to be done is an audit of the e-citizen. And the people, the young Kenyans who have said, given a chance, they would tear it apart and get to know how much really has been stolen from the public. So what Auditor General has done is not a digital audit. I've looked at the books and the figures, but I've not gone into the system to check the algorithms that are running it there, because they could even be hiding what the Auditor General is determining. There could be much more money being hidden than what is being seen as being stolen from when you look at it from the paperwork.
Senator, if I'm getting you right, that means as we speak today, the government of Kenya or Treasury does not know how many transactions exchanged hands using the e-citizen platform.
At least it's not publicly known because it's a private sector, it's a private individual doing it. Yeah, so there's the level of looting is very high.
All right. So the last question here is, so there are all these things going on. The hope is that, you say curtail the police, get them to actually do something, the EACC, whether it's them, whether it's the DCI. But then also we've got this external debt for which there are questions about, should Kenya actually pay this debt if it went towards things that we can't see? If we see the same kind of behavior out there that you're seeing internally, should that be paid?
No, they shouldn't be paid. And I think the first action that any government, and if we were to get a serious government in place, the first action would be that the national interest of Kenya. Because if you look at Article 2 or 3, the first item that comes up is that the use of money must serve the national interest. So what is Kenya's national interest? That's the question we must ask. What is Kenya's national interest in whatever we do? He did in the interest of Kenya to sustain these debts. And I think, given the position that the European powers have taken on corruption and whatever, and let me say the Western powers in general, it would be very easy to get them to engage with us in a manner that we are able to recover this money and give it back to those who lend it to us.
Who lent it to us?
Yeah, without having to burden this country with the poverty that's arising from theft of public funds that was done by regimes, the regimes that did not follow the law.
At the very least, we can afflict the comfortable in these situations or these conversations that we have. The hope is that, we'll go beyond. And I said it this morning, and I said, what, I'm yearning to be proven wrong or otherwise, that something would actually be done about these funds that are taken, that are stolen. But then for us to keep the conversation front and center is absolutely necessary, and we thank you for doing this. Always 100 cases of what you have in court at the moment.
Yeah, quite a number.
Quite a number.
But the unfortunate thing is that all of them are virtually around the issue of abuse of public law.
Yeah.
Abuse of public law, and especially in terms of finances. And I personally believe that if we got ourselves to a point whereby we get somebody to drive this country in the manner of implementing the Constitution and demanding that institutions must come up that are required to manage this country, co-opting the professionals to come in, the professional bodies, because other than this money you are talking about that is stolen through projects, whatever, and what have you, it's done by experts who are professional and belong to professional bodies. If we could co-opt professional bodies to come in and maybe help us supervise their members to ensure that they do things according to the book, this country will go very far. Because Kenya, unlike Botswana, which you raised earlier, it depends on human resource.
Yeah.
Not on minerals.
Yes. Indeed.
And we have got a very, very sophisticated human resource in this country that must be allowed to realize its potential.
Indeed.
And in realizing that potential, you'll find that the country will grow. But to do that, we must create the institutions required for this human resource to thrive.
Yeah. The Senator for the Republic of Kenya from the county of Busia is Senator Omtatah, has been our guest this hour. Thank you for joining us this morning. It's 9:02.
Thank you very much.
This is the Situation Room, the only